Thank you, everybody. And normally I'd be saying this is day 82. We're in the 12th week, and we're 2 days shy of phase 2 if everything goes well. For obvious reasons, I'm suspending our coronavirus update for a couple reasons. Our health department, probation, and board of elections got hit pretty hard last night. So we sent our workers home early, and I told them to stay out today and work from home. And, it doesn't stop. Like I said, the coronavirus doesn't go away. We still have to deal with it. So they're doing what they can at home, but when it comes to numbers and statistics and the stuff I usually put out, I'm not going to. A couple of things, for George Floyd, we all talked about this. It's disturbing video to watch. If it doesn't bring you to tears, I don't know what will. It's emotional and hard to watch that video of what happened to this guy. And my main concern yesterday with the protest and talking to the mayor and our health commissioner was large gatherings. We're not supposed to be more than 10 people in a group, 6 feet apart, masks, the whole 9 yards, because we said what happens Memorial Day, what you do to then will affect us later. And it's the same thing. We wanted people to come out and exercise their right to protest, but the timing, because we've said this for 82 days now. Coronavirus hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's still out in the community. We just hit the apex and we've come down on the other side, and we don't want to climb back up. So Dr. Whalen reached out to the organizers and explained to them how we were standing and how we felt. And when I watched it on video, it was great. A lot of people demonstrated, walked down, did their protest, stayed apart. I would say 99% of them had masks on. It was great. They did it in a safe manner, and their voices were heard. And then it turns. Then the bad, I don't want to say this because Sheriff Apple's with me, the bad apples come out, and they twist a community that did so well going forward. That's troubling to me, to see these protesters that take advantage of a situation and turn our community upside down, especially from a gentleman, myself, that grew up in the South End in that neighborhood, hung out in that neighborhood, ran around in that neighborhood. To see that happen, because there are so many good people in that community, and that 5% has wrecked it for them. And any national exposure that they thought they were going to get is not the message that was sent out because of what happened. And I was really happy for the mayor yesterday when they did that peaceful protest. And I'm like, that's the image. That's our city. That's who the mayor loves, and we love about our city and our residents. That could have been the story on a national level. Look at the way the city of Albany did it. Look at the way they protested with hundreds of people and did it the right way. And that was a good story and still is. And then this takes away from it. Once violence starts, it promotes more violence, and it means it promotes more and more violence. And that's what happened last night. And, it was disturbing for me to see this happen, when we watched our Board of Elections and our probation building not only smashed but set on fire. The Justice Center, Trustco Bank here in our building, that all the windows were smashed out, and it's disturbing. And it wasn't just here in downtown Albany. I want to remind people of this. It also happened at Crossgates Mall, Colony Center, and a lot of businesses along Wolf Road. And I want to especially thank our DGS department, our DPW, who showed up this morning, that were out there fixing things, boarding up our windows. And, one thing I was listening to this unfold and going through it, and watching over 30 windows get smashed in front of me. I get to hang out with this guy to the left of me. Got to really know him over 8 years, and I see a different side than you see in public. And I get aside probably his wife Cheryl and his kids, and I'll see them and his family. And then I've seen him in action. Don't get me wrong. We've had slides. We've been through a lot of different things, but not to this level that I had to deal with watching his performance. And I told him this. I don't want to blow his head up and have him walk out of this building, but the performance he did last night with his men and women was phenomenal. It was actually inspirational, and to watch him take command and bring 75 personnel in downtown Albany, and listening to him on the radio, I was like, man, you go, Sheriff. And took it and ran with it, and did the best he could with the situation. And we met last night out in front of the building looking at the damages to Trustco Bank. We were talking, and I said, I've been listening to you for hours on the radio, and I have to say my hat's off to you, and I commend the job that you're doing, and it's just a side I didn't see. So I do want to thank him personally, and we were going to talk about the, enforcement going forward, but who thought we'd be talking about this? It's hard, and Craig, I do want to say this to you. It was unbelievable, the job that your men and women did last night and continue to do through the night. And the same thing with Mayor Sheehan. I just, listen, we talk on a variety of different topics, and to see what the mayor was doing too. It's incredible. It's a hard time. It's easy to be judged. I say this all the time. It's easy for people to, point at us and said you shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's hard when you're in that situation and you have the welfare of a city in your hands, and have the welfare of the county, and we are the capital, so people look at us. It's tough decisions on which way you go. But before I turn it over to Sheriff Apple and Mayor Sheehan, I do want to say a couple things more. I will say this to the people out there on who did this damage. We have surveillance cameras all over our buildings. So I will be talking offline with the sheriff, with the district attorney, and we will be talking about prosecuting, because you weren't protesting, you were rioting. You were being terrorists in neighborhoods that you shouldn't have. And you were throwing bricks and setting buildings on fire and stealing stuff. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to me as a taxpayer to this county. It's unacceptable as a leader of this county. And you know what? It's a little shameful just thinking that some of these people we represent. And there's people from outside the community that were here, because I can tell you when I was down in the middle of it, there's definitely people that weren't Albany County residents here too. And we will find you, and I will work it out with the DA and the sheriff of how we're going to prosecute you and come after you. So you're not going to get away with your little night of antics, and I don't want to hear you cry and say, you're just part of it. You're throwing bricks and destroying things and destroying people's lives. That's not cool. It's the wrong message. And we're not going to stand for this in Albany County. But I want to make that point clear. And just a little, I'm not going to get into the whole quote, but Mary throws a slide up. We heard that in the Bible, and from leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi, who say nonviolence is the greatest force at disposal of mankind. And it is. It's mightier than the mightiest weapon. Think about that. That peaceful protest that the mayor demonstrated here in this city and what happened is shameful. And it's shameful as we let it happen and unfold. And, but I do want to thank my partners, Mayor Sheehan and Sheriff Apple. But Sheriff Apple.
Thanks, Dan. So let me start off with, we were going to come down today and talk about enforcement issues regarding masks and congregating, but I think that's going to be pushed to the side, unfortunately. But let me just say that simply what went on in Minneapolis is nothing short of criminal. And there's not a law enforcement officer out there that's going to say, well, give him a chance, give him his day in court. All right? It shouldn't have happened. I think everybody agrees on that. And I know the great policemen and women in this community, in this county, certainly agree with it. It was nefarious, it was criminal, it was negligent, and he will have his day in court. But with that said, I don't want the public to paint all police officers with a broad brush. We're not like that here. We've worked hard to make leaps and strides in the communities, to build bridges, to get out and to attend every single neighborhood association event that we can. The mayor's got barbecues, you name it, neighborhood engagement officers, and this set us back years. I mean, you see the messages I got this morning, and I'm very proud of a lot of the residents in the city of Albany who immediately blew up Facebook and giving me names and addresses and videos and of people that came in to try to destroy this great city. And what went on here in this county, not just the city last night, was nothing short of despicable. Absolutely despicable. And sadly, many people are going to remember May 30th, Saturday night, May 30th into May 31st, instead of the memory of Mr. Floyd. And that's shameful also. But I do want to thank the mayor, the county executive. They were out last night. We had conversations. You know, I had 82 staffers in this city last night. I didn't even know I had that many down here. I know we have 55 in Albany. I'm sorry, 60 in Albany, and 22 throughout the county protecting the malls with Colony PD, Guilderland PD, Bethlehem PD. You know, and I'm glad everybody made it home safe. I never thought you'd see Molotov cocktails thrown at police. I never thought I'd see fireworks shot at police, water bottles, whatever. We can deal with water bottles, but rockets, Molotov cocktails, not in the city of Albany. I never, ever thought that would happen here. And I feel bad for even the small businesses who are struggling due to the COVID-19 and may not, you know, are struggling to reopen, and there was a chance that they could reopen, and now as you drive down Central Avenue, they're all boarded up, struggling. There's a man sitting about a half mile from here on a chair staring at his business crying. My heart breaks for them. And yes, my heart breaks for the family of Mr. Floyd, but this shouldn't have happened here. Peaceful protests. Get your message out that way. Be proud of that. And now, unfortunately, people are going to remember the horrific acts that took place on Saturday, May 30th. But I do want to thank local law enforcement. They all came. Albany PD, the men and women of Albany PD did an awesome job, and the residents of this city should be proud of them. They came from their homes. They came from wherever they were to protect this city. And there were, I don't know how many of them. There was well over 100 of them. So I'm sure you'll have some questions, but I want to make sure that everybody knows this is what we get paid to do. This is what we train to do. You know, I'm sure there'll be the critics out there that, you know, everybody look like a militant group or whatever, but our job is to protect and save life and property, and that's what we did last night as best as we could. Unfortunately, there were small groups of antagonists all over the city. They destroyed the Judicial Center, the county courthouse, probation, Board of Elections, mental health. It's horrible. And then you look up and see all the private property that was destroyed. So we'll rebound. You know, we'll get through it. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. Truck driver, sadly, you know, they burned his whole load on South Pearl Street. Bus driver, pinned in her bus, having a panic attack, and CDTA had to come and rescue her out of it. Horrible. But, you know, again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, County Executive, you know, for giving us the support we needed last night.
Sheriff, thank you for the incredible job you did. And Mayor, as always, your leadership's inspirational too. And so thank you for being here, man.
Thank you. And, you know, I think as tragic as the events were last night, it also demonstrated that we work together with the county, with the Sheriff's Department, local law enforcement from Colony, Bethlehem, Rensselaer, Watervliet, the FBI, the state police. Governor's office called me almost immediately as the violence escalated, asking how they could help, because that's what law enforcement does. That's what first responders do. They wanted to know how they could help. But I want to stress a couple of things. We had a protest yesterday. We had a peaceful protest. As much as Dr. Whalen and I were concerned about the spread of coronavirus, people listened to us, and they wore masks, and they stayed 6 feet apart, and that protest dissipated peacefully. What happened at South Station was not a protest. It was a riot. The people who had come and peacefully protested at South Station were met by police officers who stood outside in the parking lot in their police uniforms, not in riot gear. They allowed the protesters to be heard, they listened to them, and the group dispersed. The police officers went back into the station, and it was then, after the police officers went back into South Station, that a group returned and started smashing the windows of police cars, stealing things out of police cars, and causing havoc. And that was when the police came back outside, thankfully in their riot gear, because they were then pelted, not with water bottles, there were some water bottles, but with bricks, stones, garbage cans, and then eventually Molotov cocktails, fireworks, directed at our horses. The restraint that was shown by the police department and the respect that they showed for people who had come to peacefully protest I think needs to be recognized and lauded. That should have been the story, because that's what Albany is. The Albany that I know, the Albany that the county executive knows and the sheriff knows, the Albany that we know, that's how we roll. That's how we do it. And people get mad at me, and they yell at me, and they get angry, and they get frustrated with the police department, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. And what we saw and the pain and the agony that it has caused in watching what happened in Minneapolis, it hurts. And you have to layer that hurt on the pain of people who've been dealing with the coronavirus pandemic for the last 3 months. And we know that because of that, people aren't getting the services that they need. Our kids aren't getting the education that they need. People are suffering. They're feeling pain, anxiety, anger, depression. We all feel that. And that pain and that agony is palpable. But what happened with the violence last night only adds to that pain. We already know that coronavirus is taking a disproportionate impact and having a disproportionate impact on our communities of color, on our poor communities. And which communities were hurt the most last night? Small businesses, many of them minority owned, smashed, damaged. They were ready to reopen. We're supposed to reopen on Wednesday, right?
2 days.
2 days. We were going to reopen. These businesses were not only damaged, they were looted. Everything lost. These are the small businesses that employed people from our community. These are the small businesses that serve communities that we know and are already underserved. And so it breaks my heart that I have people from that community, leaders from that community, texting me and saying, I'm so sorry for what happened. They shouldn't be sorry for what happened. They didn't do this. Those leaders wouldn't condone this. The community wouldn't condone this. This violence, it can't be condoned. And yet, it's people from that very community that are also reaching out to me saying, how can we help? They're out there alongside our DGS workers doing cleanups right now. And as I announced at my press conference at 10 o'clock, it's also the reason why I've extended the curfew. We put a curfew in place last night, not because we want to hassle people, but because we want to keep people safe. Put a curfew in place last night because I wanted people to know it wasn't safe to be on the streets. It's not safe to be out walking. It wasn't safe to be out walking last night. It wasn't safe to be out driving last night. It was not safe in this city. And I've never said that before about the city of Albany. Never. But it wasn't safe. And I can't guarantee that it'll be safe tonight. So we're extending the curfew to keep people safe so that they can stay home. And we hope that people do stay home. We hope everybody takes a deep breath, because I know what Albany is about. I love this city. Dan loves this city. The sheriff loves this city. Our police department, our police chief, we love this city. And we know what Albany is. And Albany is not a place that destroys itself. And the destruction that we saw last night is destruction that really creates a deep scar, but that scar will heal, because we are Albany, and we will come together and we will heal that scar. And so I want to reiterate my gratitude to all of the first responders. Watch the videos. You're going to see people from the sheriff's department, police department, other police agencies, state police, behaving respectfully, behaving heroically, doing all that they could to help to try to save life and property. We didn't lose anybody. Thankfully, we had a police officer who received a head injury that required him to seek medical treatment at Albany Medical Center. A lot of bumps and bruises, a lot of tired first responders, but they'll be back at it because that's what they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sheehan. And I guess I am a little tired. It's not June 1st, it's May 31st. So I just looked at my thing. I'm like, oh, it's May 31st. Again, it's been a long 82 days. So we have 3 days before June 3rd. And I can assure you, everyone that's sitting at this table, we've been working hard to get to phase 2. I do want to thank all the DGS, not just ours. And Mayor, it was your DGS that boarded up Trusco bank for us last night, so I can't thank them enough for doing that. And to Brian Hogan from the Albany PD, who did a phenomenal job, handling this situation with Sheriff Apple. And again, it's the last time publicly I'll say something nice about Sheriff Apple, but he did do a hell of a job, and I'm proud, man. And it was pretty neat seeing that other side of you. Do you know one thing? I don't want to get in front of him when it comes to law enforcement now, but I will say this: being in Iraq and being in battles, and I never talk about my stuff. It was the closest I felt to being in a war zone last night in downtown Albany. Gunfire's going, fireworks. It was pretty crazy. And the mayor was correct in her statement. It was unsafe to be out on the streets. And saw a lot of spectators, a lot of people driving through, just checking it out. That's not cool either. Because I'm telling you, it was. I was walking around and I said, man, I feel like I'm back in Iraq right now in the middle of it. So keep that in mind, and I think the people that are home should read a great story from Chris Churchill when he talked about this epidemic and coming out of it, and how people do tend to riot because they've been inside so long. It was a pretty good article, spot on, and it made me think about it today, because you should read it and take a deep breath. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and remember, we're all here for you.